So there's a couple of just easy algebra ones. I said I would do 7 next. 7, we don't like this negative, so I'm going to divide by -1 and get 3p squared minus p minus 10 equals 0. I don't want to complete the square because I got a number out front, and that's an odd number. So I'm going to check for factoring. 3 times 10 is 30. -30, are there factors of -30 that add to 1? Yes. P plus 5 over 3 and p minus 6 over 3, which means p has to equal -5/3 and +2 through factoring. This one, are there factors of 21 that add to 4? Factors of -21 that add to +4? Yes. So I could use +7 and -3. Or, because this has nothing out in front and that's even, I could complete the square here as well. Right? Either one, whatever you are comfortable with. Were I to complete the square, it would be b squared plus 4b. What do I do to the 4? Oh, good. No one remembers. I divide by 2, and then I do what with that answer? Square it. Plus 4, right? Equals, now I move that 21 over here, so it becomes +21. And how much did I add to this side? 4, so I add 4 to that side. Then I get b plus 2 squared equals 25. b plus 2 equals plus or minus 5. So b equals either -2 plus 5 or -2 minus 5. Everybody cool? And what else did I want to do? 12. What did I want to do with 12? What should I do with 12? Yeah. Sorry, I can't. Well, that's what it is. -2 plus 5 is 3, and -2 minus 5 is -7. This one, I would move that so it's positive. N squared minus 7n minus 1 equals 0. There are no factors of 1 that add to 7. And 7 is a pain in the butt to complete the square with. Why? Because it's an odd number. So this is a good candidate for the quadratic formula, which is what we've been practicing lately. A, B, C. Run it through the formula. 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 4 times 1 times -1 over 2. 7 plus or minus the root of -4 times -1 is +4. So that's 7 plus or minus the root of 53 over 2. And that is where we would stop, unless we were doing a physics question, right? Because this is not a real life answer. This does us no good. How long was he in the air? 7 plus the root of 53 divided by 2. Doesn't help us, does it? So if we were doing a real life question, we'd actually work this out. But before we went to our calculator, we would, of course, get an estimate, yes? The square root of 53 is about what? What perfect square is near 53? 49. 7, right? So this is a little bit more than 7, right? So it's 7 plus a little bit more than 7, which would make it 14 plus divided by 2, right? So it's going to be approximately 7, or 7 minus a little bit more than 7 divided by 2. So just slightly below 0, like -0.5. And then when you punch into your calculator, you have a vague idea of what it's going to look like. Everybody cool? Can we move along? All right, let's do so. You do have a quiz to write. Do you wish to write it right now or at the end of the block? I do not care. Right now it is. On this quiz, you will deal with what I just reviewed. Now, I have made an egregious error in that I have not left you enough workspace, I think, to do the last question. Try to write small. It is 7 multiple choice questions and 1 open-ended. 15 minutes? Okay. Yes. Carries a what? They won't give it to you. It's a medicine. No. Yo. Yes, I can do that right now. Negative b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Apparently they got them already. Does everybody have a quiz? Excellent. Go. You guys tell me the screen went blue. You lost your formula. Oh. And I've been recording the whole time. So if you watch the video today, there'll be 12 minutes of silence. Which I should put on Ripley's Believe It or Not, because no one will believe a high school class could be silent for 12 minutes. Don't be that way. You guys did great. You did great, you silly guys and girls. All right. Let us go over this. What is ugly about that? There's decimals. But isn't that really 1/2 x squared plus 7 over 2x plus 6? And then it's easy to get rid of the 2's, isn't it? Because we want these x's to equal 0. So if we multiply this by 2, I get x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0, right? And then it's super easy to factor because it's x plus 3 and x plus 4. So the answer is... which is C. Mark your own. I trust you. You're in the 11th grade. Factor this completely. X squared minus 20x plus 75 is, of course, x minus 15 and x minus 5. So the answer is D. Solve that. What's ugly there? The -8. So let's get rid of it. And that gets me x squared minus 15x minus 54, which is, of course, x minus 18 and x plus 3, which is right there. B. Oh, sorry. Yep, you flip it. It's A. My mistook. It's A. Thank you. And this one, of course, is -5x squared plus 55 minus 50. Then you would divide everything by -5 to get x squared minus 11x plus 10. So it's x plus, I lie, x minus 10, x minus 1. So it's positive 10 and positive 1, which is C. Give yourself a mark out of 4. I see. What's ugly here? Factor it out. What can come out? You can bring out 12, and that gets you 12x squared minus 27 equals 0. You can factor that again. Take out a 3. 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. What's that? It's a perfect square, isn't it? What's that? Minus. So it's a difference. What's that? Perfect square. 2x plus 3, 2x minus 3. Of course, you could also have done any of the other methods. I just find factoring to be the easiest. So it is -3 halves and positive 3 halves, which is B. And this one, 5x minus 4 and x plus 10 has to equal 72, right? Length times width. 5x squared plus 46x minus 40 equals 72. 5x squared plus 46x minus 112 equals 0. Now here, I would go formula. I would go quadratic formula there. Stop. My battery's dying. Phew, that was close. And when you do that, you find the answer to be 2. When you run that through the quadratic formula using A, B, C. This one, x plus 1 square root both sides equals plus or minus root 43. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus root 43. B. And this one, since I wanted you to complete the square, so it becomes 6 equals 5x squared plus 20x. Then you would do 6 equals 5x squared plus 4x. Now, half of that is 2 squared is 4. So how much did I add to the right side? 5 times 4. 20. So how much do I add to this side? 20. So now 26 equals 5 x plus 2 squared. 26 over 5 equals x plus 2 squared. Plus or minus the root of 26 over 5 equals x plus 2. Negative 2 plus or minus the root of 26 over 5 equals x. Now, before I took that to my calculator, I know that's about 5, right? And I know the square root of 5 is about 2, right? So I know my answer has to be negative 2 minus 2 or negative 2 plus 2. So very close to 0 and negative 4. Then when you do the work, you find 0.28 and negative 4.28. Yeah, that would have been out of 3. To make the whole thing out of 10, if I'm not mistaken. Any wrong cup? Any questions? Now stop for a moment. Let's pretend I said complete the square, but I made it multiple choice. Would you have to have completed the square? No. Teachers like to do that to you. I don't. Now let's say you ran this through the quadratic formula and got the right answer for me. Would I give you some credit? What do you think? You guys know me. Would I give you some credit if I had that instruction there and you just did the quadratic formula? Of course not. Because you didn't do what I asked you to do. Cool? Now, what if you were out in a job and you had to work something out using this math? Would your boss care what method you used? No. What if I had not said this? Would I have cared what you did? No. Everybody understand? You will also, should all be aware that it is very rare that I do something like that to you. Right? Very rare. I usually just care that you get me an answer. Okay? Everybody cool? All right. I left you off on these pages with the dysphoria. Of course. I left you off here with the discriminant, yes? Are we okay with A, B, C, D here where you have all the numbers? I can write out the answers real quickly because I've got them right. I think I've got them here. Yeah, I got them right here. How many roots in the first one? 2 roots. How many roots in B? 2. How many roots in C? 0. How many roots in D? 1. Oh, good gravy. Liars. Find the values of P so that each equation has 2 different real roots. If they have 2 different real roots, then my discriminant, B squared minus 4AC, must be what? Greater than, less than, or 0? Has to be greater than 0. So over here, 4 squared plus 4 times 1 times P has to be greater than 0. 16 plus 4P has to be greater than 0. 4P has to be greater than negative 16. P has to be greater than negative 4. Everybody Gouda? Now, yeah, okay. B. Same thing, except still got to be greater than 0, except this time it's 25 plus 4 P times 2 has to be greater than 0. 25 plus 8P has to be greater than 0. 8P has to be greater than negative 25. P has to be greater than negative 25 over 8. Right? Everybody cool? I'm not going to go any further. You know what you're doing. What if it has no real roots? Then what must it be? My discriminant must be what? My discriminant must be less than 0, right? So what would my discriminant there be? B squared minus 4AC has to be less than 0. What's B squared? 36 minus 4. What's A? What's M? M has to be less than 0. 36 minus 4M has to be less than 0. Negative 4M has to be less than negative 36. Now, who remembers the 9th grade? What do I got to do now? Divide by what? So what's negative 36 divided by negative 4? 9. What happens to that sign when I divide by a negative? It flips. M has to be greater than 9. Now, can we check that? Sure we can. We come back to our discriminant. If M is 10, 36 minus 4 times 10 is 36 minus 40. Is that less than 0? Is it? So we know we did it right. B is a little bit tricky. Since it sounds like not a lot of people did this, I'd like you guys to do B right now. If you already did it, you're in business. You'll be checking your work in a second. Oh. I made both of these plus. Minus. So these guys had to change signs. Because that's negative and that was negative. Okay. This is really tricky. What's B? What is B in there? 5m. So B squared is 25m squared, right? Minus 4. What's A? What's A? 1. What's C? 25. So 25m squared minus 100 has to be less than 0, yes? Yeah. So can I tidy that up? Sure. It's m squared minus 4 less than 0, yes? So m squared has to be less than 4, right? So m less than plus or minus 2. Now that's weird, right? Because if I'm less than positive 2, negative 2 hits that, doesn't it? So this is where I have to think about what's actually happening here. I know that my x's, there's my number line, I know that I have an x at 2, and I have another x at negative 2, right? Everyone agrees? So my answers have to be there or there, right? How do we check? What's the easiest number to work with? 0. What's 0 plus 0 plus, oh no, we go to here. Is 0 minus 4 less than 0? Is it? So the answer must be in the green here, right? So all of my x's must be between negative 2, m, and positive 2. Everybody with me? This is coming back from grade 9, right? Actually, we also did this in grade 10, domain and range, right? You've all seen this. Well, 27 of you have seen this. I can't guarantee the people that weren't in my grade 10 class have seen this. Everybody cool? Now, let's do one of these. If they're two equal real roots, what does my discriminant equal? What does it have to be? 0. So you just plug it in. Which one do you guys want me to do, and then I'm going to make you do one? Because I know that most of you didn't. You want me to do D, then I'm going to make you do C. It seems, I don't really think that's a good idea because C and D are the exact same, aren't they? Pretty much, right? But I'll do D. What's B squared? 16k squared minus 4 times 1 times what? It's tricky, right? What have I got to put there? Negative 3k, right? And that has to equal 0. 16k squared plus what? $12k has to equal 0. Now what would I do with that? 4k plus 3 would have to equal 0. Now what do I do with that? How do I make that true? What would have to happen? He waited patiently. How do you do that? X plus 7 would have to be 0, or x minus 3 would have to be 0, right? So what do I do here? 4k would have to equal what? Or he waited patiently. 4k plus 3 would have to equal 0. So k is 0 or yes, he said negative 0. Yes, class. I have taught that gentleman since the 9th grade, and he informed me that the answer is negative 0. Yeah, just joking. I know. I get you. Again, internet fans. Negative 3/4. Thank you. Somebody else I've taught since the 9th grade. Or no, not grade 9. All right. You guys do C. Go. Negative 0. Noah. The 3 moves over. 4k would have to equal negative 3. K would equal negative 3 over 4. Same way we've been doing algebra since the 6th grade, right, buddy? Yeah. Algebra. Who needs it in math class? Now, based on what I am hearing and what I'm hearing is generally silence, I expect that most of you have not attempted 5 yet. Go. I want 5 done. Like, now. Well, there's all of number 5 being recorded right now. Right, ladies and gentlemen, due to my doofusness, we will go over this again. Okay, so there's our ABC, there's our discriminant. If it has no real roots, of course, our discriminant must be less than 0. So, we are going to work with that. B squared is negative 4q squared minus 4 times q times 5 minus q. So that is 16q squared minus 4q times 5 minus q, which is 16q squared minus 20q plus 4q squared. Like terms, 20q squared minus 20q has to be less than 0. So 20q, q minus 1, has to be less than 0. So let us solve that. For 20, 20q has to be less than 0. So q has to be less than 0. And q minus 1 has to be less than 0, so q has to be less than 1. So we know our options are 0 and 1. Now, since I know I have to be less than 1, I know this should work. The question is, does this over here work? So let's check. There's negative 1. Put that in there. What's 20 times negative 1 is negative 20. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Negative 20 times negative 2 is positive 40. Is 40 less than 0? No. So these values can't work. It has to stop there. So all of our values are in the middle here. And just to double check and show it, this is 1/2. It's in that highlighted spot, so it should work. So let's check. 20 times 1/2, and then 1/2 minus 1. Let's check if that's less than 0. 20 times 1/2 is 10. 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2. Less than 0. 10 times negative 1/2 is negative 5. Negative 5 is less than 0, so we know we're right. Sorry about that.